Hi, John. How are you?
Hi,
How are you doing? Hi, Serena.
I'm good. I'm good. I want to ask you people something. That I'm from India and I'm going to pursue my master's in renewable energy.
Oh, great.
So, so I've got an offer from Columbia University in mechanical engineering with the concentration in energy systems.
Wow.
So,
Congratulations.
Yeah,
That's
that's great.
that's
so
amazing.
I need Thank you. So I need some advice from you guys about, like, I have got other offers also from UK and one offer from Sweden as well. So first of all, I was a bit confused uh, about the courses because in Colombia they are offering mechanical engineering course with energy system concentration, and in Sweden and UK they are offering renewable energy engineering. So, and in later part of my life, I want to work in offshore wind energy. So, I want to ask these questions about
Well,
the
I
courses.
would not just consider just the pure subject because I think you're uh, for sure very smart and you can learn anything at any time. I think you should also consider who will be teaching you and what is the network you would gain from the university. I would look into what the department consists of, what they are working on, and what social network you basically gain also from that institution, because that will bring you further along in your future way more. If you get references from people that work in something you want to work in the future, that are really great teachers and are nice and will support you in the future to getting grants and getting jobs. So I would also look into that more social component, I think.
So, if any one of you can help me, so I can back channel them about the courses and they can advise me regarding this. If
Yeah,
anybody want to,
yeah. You can back channel me. I don't know if anyone else here offers, but yeah, it's not my field of research, but you can just ask question and then I can maybe ask someone or answer the ones I can answer myself. But yeah, I'm happy to help.
okay, I will back channel you about the courses and links regarding that. And if you know somebody from UK, then you can also refer me to them.
Sure. Okay.
Thank you.
Of course. Yeah, so welcome everyone to the Science Society. And that's also part of the network I want to build here, is that we build a network of people, not just science topics, but of people in science that we can reach out to, ask questions because they know us, and maybe collaboration. So it's supposed to be like more kind of a science network, science tech network, not just pure knowledge processing, but also I think the social component is also very important, very helpful. So yeah, welcome everyone. We had, I think, a really cool week of guest speaker topics and guest speakers, like amazing guest speakers this week. And if you missed them, this is like a short recap to basically guide you towards what we talked about, and then you can have a deep dive and about it if you thought those topics were interesting. So ask questions and so on. So I'll just give a short summary, or Serena or Dennis or anyone here who was also there, if you want to add comments about that guest speaker room, please add. It's supposed to be more like an interactive thing. So yeah, on Tuesday we had our guest speaker. Sorry, I'm still sick. Pedram Roshan. And, he was a really great guest speaker, not just because he's at Google and he's interesting, his research is interesting, but also because of his personal path to science and to work in that area. I think is really interesting. If you want to read about him, Pedram Roshan, he was at the Baha'i Institute for Higher Education, and it was founded in the 80s in response to the Iranian government continuing to deny Iranian Baha'is access to higher education. So it was kind of a very informal way of getting into education back then, and people were actually sometimes risking their lives to give people education to the students. So I think that's an amazing resilient story of Pedram, and yeah, and then he shared, of course, his research with us about the time crystals he created with his team at Google. So they used quantum computing to generate these time crystals, and the cool thing about them is that they basically oscillate between states and really don't. Well, if they would be completely isolated, which in our world they never are completely, but completely isolated, they could continue um, oscillating without any adding to any entropy. So you wouldn't need to feed any energy into it. Of course, the this was not completely a perfect situation, so they once in a while had to feed some energy in. But principle with those time crystals, you don't have to add any energy, that they continuously keep oscillating. And why this doesn't really go against the current physics laws we have is they don't produce any work, so they don't keep adding information. So that's why this doesn't go against the thermodynamic laws. So yeah, if Serena or anyone wants to add something to this short summary of that room, please go ahead.
Yeah, I was able to make that room. I was on business travel a lot of the week, so I'm going to be interested in catching up. But that room was interesting in that one of the figures toward the end of the paper, it shows the damped oscillations, and it was interesting that, I mean, I asked if that was energy bleed off or if that was some other type of systematic errors in noise within the quantum computing system, and was interesting that it's not completely understood exactly what goes into that decay, but through normalization they were able to continue to get the signal out to 10, I believe 10 milliseconds, if my memory serves me. But anyway, it was quite a fascinating talk.
I was interested in the fact that the experiment duration was less than a minute. I think it was less than a second also.
Yeah, so I posted the link to the paper. It's also publicly available. So if you want to read through it, I should also have the PowerPoint presentation. So if you want to read through it and maybe also access the PowerPoint presentation, please DM me. I can send you both links. Um, And yeah, I think it was a great discussion. It was very good at answering all of our questions, as far as our knowledge or their knowledge goes, and as much as they can disclose, because it's still a company. But yeah, I think that was a great room. Okay, let me go and check and share the next one. And that was Dr. Mackenzie, Lewis Mackenzie. He was there during the day at 2 p.m. EST, and he talked about the chiral molecular interactions. I just need to get the link up 1 second. There it is. So he's at the Department of Durham University in the UK, and he was also really great, and he loved our club. He will be back, so everyone that missed him will have him back at some point. He just switched fields, kind of. So he is not at the university anymore. But his work was really interesting. This was the latest paper, but maybe I should actually share the PowerPoint. Do you guys prefer the PowerPoint or the paper? I'm not sure what everyone prefers. Anyways, I'll just share. Circularly polarized luminescence, like light, has like is adding in a lot of layers into our knowledge, and can also actually they made advancements for security. I think they created inks that you can visualize, but in this paper that is pinned, what they use this principle for, and to come up with this technology, they had to combine like different fields of physics, engineering, and then also in this paper biology, which I really like. And so with using this chirality, they could basically visualize proteins, in which direction, if they are left or right, and could visualize that in cells, which is really cool. And you can basically also monitor the transition phases of those proteins, because during biological processes, if you can monitor during biological processes these proteins and visualize them with fluorescence, you can monitor what happens when they decay, where they go, and so on. So on this platform he created, they could monitor two at the same time, but he said he could upscale it to 4 or more in the future. So what they did was they localized different proteins, for example in the lysosome and then the mitochondria here in this paper. And he basically asked if people have, in the end he asked if people have ideas in which kind of disease model or in which kind of biological model they could use this, or this technology that they developed. They are open to suggestions and collaboration, and I think it's really cool. So yeah, I think this CPL spectroscopy and this chiroluminescence imaging will be a really cool tool. On one hand, just for security, to validate if some sort of product or print is real, and like layers of security you can add, so you can have ink that uses this platform, and you can print money or safer money or any type of product that needs to be um, validated. You can use this technology, and then you can also use this technology to monitor proteins on the skin, and then also for basic science, to see what's going on in the cells. I think it's really cool, and apparently also pretty scalable. So I don't know if anyone wants to add something to this. Please go ahead.
I missed that room, so thank you for highlighting the big points.
Do you know what they found in the mitochondria or the lysosome, or what? I mean, what's
Well, it was more like they didn't look into any, like they just showed basically how you can utilize that in a living cell, um, since you can basically monitor rapidly this organic fluorophores that you add. So they basically showed like in what detail you can visualize this in cells, and they used skin cells. Um, so, but it's not like they got a new biological um, insight here. But they basically asked for, if you have an idea of how to use it for your biological question, please go ahead and suggest something. But this paper is more like a technology announcement type of paper, where you show what you can do, and you replicate something that was already known, and if you get the similar results, just cooler and in a better way, then you can go ahead and do something new. That's how usually these papers work.
cool?
Yeah, I really liked it, since monitoring live cells in a way that doesn't damage the cells is always good. And then if you then on top, like, for example, I'm just an example I said that I told him was ALS research. So how people colleague of mine at the Marine Biological Laboratory in the summer should come and do this was to put the mutated proteins and put them on a giant exon, a squeeze out giant exon, and look at how transportation of these mutated proteins that are known, like that come from mutated genes, and or proteins that are not how usually in a healthy neuron, motor neuron, would be, how for example transportation is not working anymore, and other different things in the neuron. So, and it's to do that live, it's really hard. So what people used to use the giant axons, but if you can do that now, um, live, in a cheaper way, an easier way, in the actual motor neurons, where this actually happens, this would at least would for sure be, a lot better, and give us more insight what's going on in the onset of Alzheimer's, and monitor maybe the motor neurons that are close enough to the skin where it usually starts, like on the hand. So he even talked about that they could develop a glove basically for that purpose, maybe. So I think that would be really cool if you have inherent, and like if you know what's in your family and around the onset time, you could start wearing those gloves and see what's going on. I think, for example, that would be one example. I think that would be great.
Be interesting to see if it's applicable to some of the protein transport in neurons, in the dendrites and arbors as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the transporting of different proteins is that's what most people think what's not working accurately anymore. The production of specific proteins is not working accurately anymore, and then the cells start dying off. Yeah. So next one was Dr. Angus Fletcher. Let me just get the link. He talked about training creativity in an alternative way, and that was also really interesting. It was a little bit different, but really interesting. So he actually works with the Department of Defense to basically enhance creativity in a systematic way in the military, but also for schools and so on, because it's a really important skill set to basically form new ways of solving problems that come up, because you constantly have to keep up with advancements from the opponent and of the current situation, and you constantly should be coming up with new ideas. So training creativity, I think, for everyone it would be very helpful. So I just added the link to his paper. He also has a book on Amazon. I think the Department of Defense actually published it for him. It's really cheap. That's why it's really cheap. It's like $3 or something, and it has very practical steps that he developed to train creativity. And this paper is more like theoretical, and it has some like the model. It describes the model and why and how he came up with it. The book is more like really actual practical steps. I think 16 steps or so, how to train it. And what he says is that it's very interesting how we humans still outperform in those situations to come up with a new solution of something that's not very usual, or we are still better at it. And this is because the creativity doesn't use pure computational database approach. He labels it more a narrative based approach. So we in order to be able to do that, you have to be able to see it as a story that has some emotion in it, but so narrative cognition, he says, it's very important um for being creative and seeing like the bigger picture and being creative. And he says that you can train that, everyone can train that. And there are 3 steps, and I have to find them that I don't say them wrong. But basically, the first step is to have the ability to create your own world, basically to create a story, like to enhance that, and then to build that story out and to create like actions out of it. So yeah, it's really interesting work, and I think it's very important. And it's known that people that are creative, that they are more resilient in adverse situation and like difficult situation. People with higher creativity abilities are way more resilient and more positive also in those situations, and come up with actually then solution. So and resilience means that something terrible happened and you have the capability to bounce back and lead a meaningful or a life. Basically, that's like in general the resilience definition. But also in small situations, like that you don't get stuck so easily, that you come out of situations. So, and this very practical book is also, so if you just Google Angus Fletcher creativity book, you will find his Amazon book, and it's like $3 or $4. And I think it's really great. I to try.
Curious whether he relates it to underlying neural mechanisms or plasticity, or is it more of a phenomenological approach or basis? Or it's curious.
Yeah, I asked him a little bit in that direction. He didn't do any studies, although he's also involved in mental health. I asked if people with mental health, if they in the beginning issues, if they in these steps that he trains, if there are differences, like how they approach things, and after training, if it improves the mental health. But he said they didn't go there yet to look into specific mental health disorders and see how that is in the beginning influence, and then how it goes over time. But it's an interesting question. I would say that people that have an more intrinsic, not trained way of being creative, I would assume that they have a higher capability of plasticity, because you need to adapt basically your thinking constantly to new versions of stories. So I would assume, but I don't think anyone did the study.
We didn't we didn't take the discussion in the biomarker direction. I don't know if he would have had anything to add on that, but what was interesting to me was this distinction between possibility thinking versus logic and memory, and how the younger you are, the more likely you are to be engaged in possibility thinking. So he cited an example, what if rain went up? And I was like, yeah, that's a really interesting thought. Like, children do have thoughts like this. And then the other part of the discussion that was really interesting to me was he was mentioning how there's a correlation between um, creation and art and optimism. So if you create some sort of art, then you tend to be more optimistic. And I had asked him if the inverse was true. So if there's no optimism, is that because you're not creating art? And there was no answer for that. But it's an interesting question because, for example, from a biology standpoint, if you are a musician, that can, depending on the instrument, pretty much any instrument though, like if you are a singer, when you sing, it generates vibrations in your body, and those vibrations can increase your vagus tone, your vagus nerve tone. And to the point, there's internal and external vagus nerve tone generators. They're medical devices. Some of them are under different sorts of provisional approval levels from the FDA. And I don't know if anyone else is a musician here, but if you've ever been to a jam session, you can come out feeling pretty energized. And if you're not a singer, you could just beat on a drum. If you are on a sitting drum, even better, because just the vibrations are flowing through you. And there's the vagus nerve tone changes. And then there's also, I hadn't even thought about this until I just started talking about it, but in terms of just molecular level, like you could literally just sort of maybe shake some toxins out. Maybe it has an impact on your lymphatic system. Those are interesting considerations.
Oh yeah, and the Vegas. Yeah, I agree. That could definitely be true. Yeah, we started talking about music also. I think we had a few musicians also here, like Eric started also talking about music. So yeah, I think it's again, I really like when people put this systematic approach into things like creativity or taking hallucinogenic stuff, because when it's more presented in a more systematic way with really practical points, it's more approachable for everyone, I think. And more approachable to teach this also, or to do something with that data, and to look into it. And so it's not like this mystical thing that seems to be unapproachable for the regular person, and only a few have the privilege of being that way. You know what I mean? So I really like this study.
So, what do you mean by vagus tone in this context? I'm kind of curious about that.
Sure. So for the basics of vagus nerve are that it's a nerve. It runs from your brain all the way down to, I want to say, your abdominal cavity. It connects to several of the major organs. It's an independent system. It runs parallel to the central nervous system. And there have been studies done. I don't recall all the details of them right now. But basically, you can improve the tone of that. And by the tone of that, it means basically the rigidity, or maybe that's not the right word. It's if you were to train exercise for your biceps or something, and the more you do it, the more muscle tone you get. So that's not. Does that make sense?
I'm still reaching, but I mean, we can move on if it's just unclear. But I mean, it seemed to have a few different possible meanings the way you were using it. So I was just wondering if anyone could shed light on that. I'm interested in the vagus nerve because I hear so much about the microbiome in connection with it, and how that
Yeah,
relates
yeah,
to
there
mental
are
health.
interactions between that nerve system. It does run to your gut. It does have a hard line right into your gut. And then I haven't looked at this question, but I can't imagine that there isn't, in addition to electrical signals, conductivity. I can't imagine that other substances such as pathogens could not also use that pathway to potentially infiltrate other organ systems and move around your body the way that certain other pathogens can use your central nervous system to do these same sorts of transports. But in terms of, to make it a little bit more concrete, there was a paper I was reviewing recently where they looked at the mouth cavity of a person, and they were able to determine that the left part versus the right part of the vagus nerve, because I guess that means it's split, or there's some sort of distinction between them. They were able to see that the tone on one side was less than the other side, and I'm not sure how they corrected that per se, but that was interesting, if that answers the question a little more.
So I think like the background is for everyone that if you stimulate the vagus nerve, like there are different ways of doing that. You can there are different things that are being treated with that, including the immune system, heart arrhythmias, abnormal functioning of the nervous system, the autonomic nervous system, especially lung disease, ulcers, like constantly fainting and other conditions. So I just wanted to add that as a background. So vibrations, they are not different. Um, Studies going into what sound frequencies and other sources that create basically vibrations at the specific frequencies can do for you, and there are studies that have been shown that it can help clean up proteins that are faulty, like that are just hanging around as waste in your cells. That it can help with that, and it can help maybe the performance of glia cells and so on. So yeah, there are different studies that came out recently showing this type of approach, and I guess here the idea is to you can just use a source from outside to create those frequency vibration patterns, or maybe by using different types of singing or the meditation sounds you can make and so on, you can create those frequencies yourself. That would be interesting to look into more systematically. I agree.
We were also discussing this in the space medicine room a couple of weeks ago, and I had proposed that for the International Space Station residents, that perhaps doctors' orders of the future would include 1 hours of mandatory jam session. So I don't know how many musicians are also astronauts, but like imagine it, right? Like they have prescribed you must do X amount of exercise per week in order to maintain muscle and bone density, which degrades in orbit. And so I was like, well, just from a mental health perspective, because you're literally you're trapped in a steel tube that orbits the Earth every 90 minutes, and your all sorts of functions are become dysregulated. So, for example, melatonin becomes dysregulated because you're not completing one rotation in 24 hours. You're completing one rotation every 90 minutes. That's about 16 rotations in a 24-hour period. And your biology developed on the planet, it's supposed to it's regulated with the sunrise and sunset, and this can be seen on Earth. There's people who live in places where there's a lot less light. They have lower vitamin D levels. There's so many implications of this. So I was like, well, this is a very easy prescription, doctor's orders, Space Jam session.
If I may, Lady Rocket, I just cannot hold myself back, and thank you for inviting me. In responding to Dennis, if I pronounce correctly, you are so right on, and being action-driven person, here is how I can support the purpose of this room and your initiative. My company, Copernic Space, that I've founded, is actually working as we speak on sending to the International Space Station a new attitude, new things in the spirit that you just shared, including also not only physical delivery of, for example, something like Oscars, which needs to get away from planet Earth for a moment, but NFT in order to introduce music and value of music in space in a way that would also unleash ability to finance relevant projects, because the NFTs that we launched ultimately are designated not only for the speculation and collection, all this stuff, but its ultimate destination is to finance new, normally not fundable projects in space. International Space Station is our second project. The first one is our To the Moon, where we are already working on delivering physically meaningful items, including music, because music and jam sessions are you caught me by surprise, because jam sessions are such an important part of human togetherness, and I forgot about jam sessions and its natural fit into space. So I just got excited about hearing what you said, and I jumped in. I apologize if I did it ahead of the others, but just wanted to say hello to beautiful people here before I have to take off. Thank you for letting me share, Lady Rocket.
Thanks for adding, Lady Rocket. Were there any other comments or questions on this one?
Okay, then I'll switch the link to our guest speaker from yesterday, which was organic neuromorphic devices. He is it up? Is it the right one this time? Because So we had, just to explain the situation, we had a introduction meeting a few minutes before we had our guest speakers, and I just tried out to put up a link so he could see how it works here on Clubhouse when there's the paper posted, how people will see it. And I thought somehow I clicked I copied the actual paper from the next room, but apparently I somehow copy pasted the same again. And usually I have in my notes what's going on in the rooms that day, and I have a bunch of links there, and I must have clicked the wrong one. And it was like really late on in the talk. He said, "This is not my paper, but it's an interesting study." So he was such a great speaker. Like,
That one, the one that you posted right now, definitely does go to the right paper.
okay, good.
Yeah. Yeah, it was funny because I didn't notice that he wasn't the author, and I started asking him about, "Are we going to get onto your work?" And it's such an embarrassing
And I think
moment.
somebody in the chat already mentioned it. I said, no, that's the right one. And I didn't really, I don't know. I also didn't sleep much and I was kind of sick. I don't know. I was totally blocked. So next time, please, anyone correct me and say, no, you're being stupid. Like, this is wrong. So please do it when I'm stupid. Yeah, so, yeah, he is at Max Planck now. And he was such a nice guest speaker, and he really explained everything really well. So basically what he wants to recreate in an artificial way is a material that kind of reflects more of what's going on in the brain. So he uses these artificial materials to recreate in this paper global oscillations that you can record in the brain and that they can synchronize in a neural network, like similar to what you see in the brain, and then also create something like a long-term memory in that physical, in that not just a long-term memory in a way that you have code, like that's a code-based algorithm that will create some sort of digital version of a long-term memory, but a physically embedded artificial long-term memory basically, and oscillation, brain oscillations. So so he discusses this here in the paper, how he did this, and it's really an ingenious way. And what I think is really important about this, it's exactly that. So we had here on Clubhouse, or I had here on Clubhouse, in a different in another club, the Miguel Nicolelis and Ronald Zuccarello, and also we had other discussions about this topic, that it will be really difficult to recreate whatever is going on in our brain if there is no real physical change to the material where this computation is happening, just like it happens in the brain, to replicate that. It's a form of intelligence. And that's what he is attempting to do, and actually managing to do step by step. Not completely, but that's why I think this his research is really important, to basically create a artificial version of what happens in our brains, and then also to not just to recreate, but then also to study it, right, in the model. That's why I think this is really cool. But please add anything to it that you would like to say.
Well, I thought it was so fascinating because I have this keen interest in, embodied uh, intelligent systems, and he was doing some very basic and groundbreaking science on developing these systems. my imagination sort of carried me off into applications, and he regrouped and emphasized the basic research. And yes, of course, but it was a very modern and new way of approaching. It's fundamentally analog systems, but physical systems in the actual loop, where we can couple electromagnetic signals, potentially light signals, but ion selective type of membranes, and I thought it was cool to imagine scaled up compartmental systems that can have a time dependent evolution of their actual composition, and have that coupled into different types of signaling. And it was a really fascinating approach to how we might get to these real-time physical systems in the loop, in our endeavors for more synthetic intelligence. Yeah.
Serena, you missed the power output. I was waiting for you to talk about that.
I missed the what?
You were mentioning the other when we were in the room the other night, the 20 watts component. Do you want to talk about
yeah.
that?
He made an interesting point in the beginning, that these supercomputers and our contemporary approaches to AI have these huge kilowatt level power demands, whereas the brain essentially operates on 20 watts. And what is an emphasis for his work is these very low power systems that can capture the essential behavior of these of neuromorphic inspired types of computations or analogs. So it's very, and he was emphasizing specific polymer derived systems that could be more akin to tissues, and embedded into tissues, and types of soft actuation systems. So we're very fascinating, and aspect of that is the so how much choose your metric of computation per watt is. If you're normalizing by the power it took you to produce that result, it's it's a very different standard, but it's has a great deal of application for embedded systems in robotics. So it's a fascinating one.
The only thing I didn't get to ask him in retrospect was if that 20 watts is during maximum utilization or during sleep, or which stage. But regardless of which stage that's at, 20 watts versus 20 kilowatts for potentially the same sorts of operations is just, pardon the pun, mind-blowing.
Yeah, it's essentially a laptop.
Yeah, exactly. And then the other interesting thing was that this was not necessarily, this was part of the discussion section, but he was discussing the ability to intercept memory formation and how that had been shown experimentally, which is really interesting.
Hi everybody, sorry I'm late. How is everyone?
Thanks for joining us, Jamie. We're just reviewing some of the sessions that we were going over. I think you were at the organic neuromorphic circuitry discussion. Was there anything that stood out to you out of that talk?
Do you mean the one that was yesterday?
Was it yesterday?
The organic,
There's
Was that-
so much stuff going on. I can't even keep track of the
Time
days
flies,
yeah. One thing that stood out is I think there was the one guy who got on stage. Was he drunk?
Oh, never mind about the
Yeah.
the bloopers and the outtakes. We can do that.
because at first I was wondering what was going on with that, and then it was like, I like electronics, and I like
Something was going on with him. Something was going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know him. In a word, yes.
because at first I was like, oh, where's he go with this question? Oh, and I was like, quick, let's ask the speaker something else so he doesn't think we're trolling him, you know. Um, but I thought actually the thing about the talk with the doctor yesterday is I was trying my best to think of something intelligent to ask him because it sounded so freaking complicated. I was like, this stuff sounds really advanced. I couldn't even really get my head around exactly what he was like kind of working with, eh? But it was really interesting. What were your thoughts?
Yeah. Yeah, maybe I don't know. Maybe if you don't know some electrophysiology properties of neurons, maybe it can it can be complicated. So yeah, if we have like suggestions for rooms where we like suggestions like this are good, because then I can give feedback to the guest speakers for next time, maybe to explain that maybe I would or anyone would explain first some basic electrophysiology osmosis type of principles first. I don't know.
Well, it was like I mean, he was talking about like the possibilities were kind of endless with it, and yeah, I felt like sometimes like if I was asking something or someone else was asking something, I was feeling like we weren't quite getting what he was doing because he was so focusing on specifically his research, right? He was almost like the talkers in the past day who don't really like to postulate on possible future applications. He was very strictly sticking to his work in terms of research and whatever. It was making it and no way his fault. This is like my fault for being a bit dumber, but difficult to kind of place it in context, as it were, you know?
Are we discussing yesterday's speaker?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Oh
think the
yeah, yeah.
context is
The paper at the top tripped me up so much. So I was like, wait, what?
that was that was the one because that was from the Marco. Yeah,
Yeah, I had such an
Marco.
embarrassing moment with that one. But yeah,
See what he said. See what he said. I'm not familiar with that paper.
He was like, yeah, that's a great paper, although it has nothing to do with me.
He goes,
yeah,
but it
that was
sounds very
completely my
interesting.
fault. But next time, as I say, just let me know. Like, text me, say it
Well,
out
Oh no,
loud.
no, I
it just
thought I was stupid. I was like, wow, I know so little. How are these things connected? Jeez. Wow, don't I
well,
feel dumb? I should ask questions to make sure.
Just assume that
And then
I'm
that was an
stupid,
awful.
not that you're stupid.
when
Just assume that I'm stupid. Like, please, next time.
when I noticed the thing still pinned up, hey, like I mean, I was going, oh, I wonder why that's still pinned up, and of course, like I just was assuming. Well, that's the thing. I was confused because you know how you had the intro room before that, Katerina, right? And then when he was going, do you have a desktop thing? And I thought, is he really going to stop everything to install the desktop thing now? And then when he said, oh, you know, we'll work on that later, I actually thought, like the intro room was actually the thing starting. So I didn't realize it was like it's going to happen in a few days'
I
time,
was
so I'd have
a
time.
completely different person.
Yeah, and it was a
And
completely different bit, and I couldn't distinguish because one was Greek and one was Italian, and my ear couldn't really. I was like, they don't sound quite the same, but these are still pinned up. So are they the same? I have no idea what's going on, so I'm just going to roll with it anyway. And it was only when they mentioned about your paper's really interesting there, and I was like, oh, now it's all coming clear. Completely different person. accidental pin up. Okay, all the pieces put together. Yeah.
Well, it was funny because he had a very terse introduction, and then I thought he just paused and he was going to go cover the paper that was pinned, and I was all, ready to ask a question about Figure 4, and it wasn't. It just wasn't his work. So
Oh, and
funny.
while I remember, Dennis,
Hey
you
guys,
there?
I just want to chime in very quickly. Katarina leads a great room, but I went and followed Dennis's suggestion on jam session in space, and just want to share with you that I found out that, and I wish I could share a beautiful picture of the first original jam session in space, which happened, and I look at the picture with balalaicas, and just like a friend Mars has in his hand a guitar, and it was performed on April 27th, 2018 by, well, music unites people, doesn't divide people, because the jam session was performed by American and Russian astronauts. So
That's
just
cool. That's really
yeah,
cool.
so I don't know how to do it, send you a link, but I found it on the NASA web pages under Out of This World Jam Session. And you know what? It picture is absolutely amazing, because just like you said, they are sitting in the middle of this tin can called International Space Station, but they have all those incredible instruments in their hands, and they are attached, so they do not, fly in the air. So
I would
so
love to see them float around playing
you
guitar.
know
I
what,
would love to see that.
that might be the next one. And so enjoy it if you can find it. I think it's great. So the precedence has been set, which is cool. And because Katerina is not only a scientist, but also entrepreneur, it might be appropriate to mention, under her curation of this subject, if you want to follow it up. But here is my observation. Massive amounts of brand new wealth created by Bitcoin, Shiba, and others, and with upcoming conference in Miami, Bitcoin 2022, which is bringing the biggest so-called Bitcoin whales. I don't know how you feel about it, and maybe you know more, but I haven't seen initiatives that would ask for a funding of a challenging research and development projects by keepers of these very new whales, especially Shiba, which last time I checked, I think the value gathered by Shiba token holder is about $5 or $50 billion, some kind of insane amount, with nothing to do until Elon Musk will take Shiba to the moon. And Elon Musk is the spiritual leader of this entire stuff. So not for this moment, but because of the upcoming conference in Miami, research and development and startups sponsored by Bitcoin Wells. And circling back to Elon Musk, who is looking for productive use of the cryptocurrency that his patronage created. Again, because
Yeah,
Katrina is wearing many hats here as an entrepreneur. So thank you for letting me share.
yeah. She pasted the link to the top of the room, and it does show the astronauts with the instruments. It's great.
That's so cool.
Yeah,
Thank
you
you
got it.
for
Wonderful.
finding that and then sharing that with us. That was a great
Yeah,
add.
thank you.
Thank you.
That's really cool.
You're welcome. It's fun. Well, Dennis, you brought it up. Thank you for letting me
Yeah,
share.
that's so great. Thank
Uh,
you. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much. Yeah,
And then
and
Eric and Dr. Shaw were also at that session. Were there any takeaways that you wanted to share with us from that session?
Hi everyone, thank you lady for sharing,
hello.
the paper on the top. So back to the previous, topic, I was really ready to ask very good question from him. So if Serena never mentioned about it, I never noticed that. By the way, that was a very, very good week. I think that I learned a lot. And as always, Katrina always holding very good quality rooms, as always.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, like I had 2 screw ups this week with Mackenzie Lewis. He's so nice, and I had the emergency at work, so I came late. But Victoria, who's not here, and I wanted to make a special thanks shout out to Victoria that she took over the first 20 minutes of the room really well and interviewed him really well, and he was very happy and said that we have a very special and great thing going here with Science Society, and he's happy to come back. So she totally saved this.
She was brilliant. She was
Yeah.
brilliant.
And Jamie was also there asking a lot of great questions. So, yeah, if you have anything more to share about Mackenzie's room, please also go ahead, and because it's a really great technology he helped developing that I think will be very useful in the future. I think Eric was also very excited about it. And then I
I
did
found
the
the
screw up with the with pinning the wrong link. So that speaker from that paper will be coming at the same time, funnily, on next Saturday at the same time, Saturday 1 p.m. EST, and he's a really great Italian physics researcher, and it's a really great fundamental work that he's doing.
Well,
I
great.
want
I
to know
can ask
one
him
thing
about
in that.
Dr. McKenzie's work.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I actually found Dr. Mackenzie quite inspirational, and that was because, you know, when he gave his little backstory about how he got to where the position he's in, um, it sounded so much like it was literally a person with an incredibly inquiring mind who just went to where the answers, you know, just where the information led. You know, like how he said, um, working in a lab for astronomy was better than working in a shop, and he loved astronomy, so he got into that. But then he couldn't go any further because he didn't do he wasn't really enjoying like so the certain parts of it so much, and then boom, he was doing biology, and it's like it's almost he made it sound he was so humble in it. He made it sound like he was fumbling his way through this incredibly intelligent level of learning. Um, and I actually found that very down to earth and inspiring, and very worthy of my respect. I found.
I want to draw attention to that photograph of the Space Jammers again. One of them is holding what looks like a pot, and he's using it as drum, as I was mentioning before about just being able to improvise musical devices for vagal tone. So that's really cool.
Did they actually manage to get a guitar up on there? Because they carefully monitor like what goes up in terms of weight and size and
There
space
are
and
two
everything, don't they?
guitars, this improvised drum, a flute, and it looks like a piccolo or some other woodwind instrument.
That's cool. I wonder what it must feel like being on a space station and like looking down at the Earth. I mean, would they be seeing it as like, why is everyone fighting down there? It's just one world.
There are astronauts that have been quoted. I forget which astronaut on the moon had a quote about, you know, when you look at Earth, you know, our only home in the universe currently, and you look down on it and you look at all the petty bickering, like you just want to drag these people up here by the scruff of their neck and be like, look down at that. Like there's even when William Shatner, I thought they were going to shatter Shatner when they launched him up there because he was so old, but fortunately he made it back in one piece. He was completely, he felt complete change in his perspective, and those are not the only two examples of people who have a really different outlook on human affairs on the surface of the planet once they're able to watch it from orbit.
Yeah, I agree. I heard a lot about this too, like a lot of articles and statements from people. So yeah, so this was this week. I think it was great. What I'll also do, like, our more social type of round discussion rooms, I think I will stop recording them. Like, I stopped recording at some point on Friday evening. That's why we don't have a recording of that. Because some people mentioned in the chat and so on, they said, yeah, I don't want to talk about this topic if it's recorded. So in the future, I mean, we can all talk about this, what you guys think is the best way to handle this, but maybe we don't record like the more round table discussions in the future. What do you guys think?
What was the nature of the disagreement with the topic that people didn't want it to be recorded?
Yeah, and I don't want people to be inhibited and not speak their mind. So yeah, maybe.
Yeah, because one thing that I heard from another person on here was that some people who were kind of vicious or whatever were taking these recordings and sending them to the dean's office or other places. Like I had this happen to us early on in the pandemic, where the ethics office reached out to us because of some things we said on here. So it wasn't, there was no controversy. It was like whoever reported it was basically trying to do something, but like legally, technically, there was no problem. So I think that isn't a real concern. That if people are malicious or mean, it can cost people sometimes their job. So from that perspective, I agree, but I don't know what kind of controversial conversation we could engage in that would cause people to get in trouble. I think we usually keep it very professional. So to me, it's surprising because I personally like to have a recording of things. Like if we're ever having a meeting or something, I usually try to keep very good notes so I can always go back and refer to things. So, but I am curious what everyone else thinks. So.
Well, in one sense, anyone in the audience can record it. And so there's a false sense of security of thinking that in such a public forum such as this, that your audio wouldn't be captured by, if somebody's going to, I suppose replays are, what's the saying, to keep the honest people honest, but anyone can, record, and the servers could be having backups, and so in essence, if you have something to say, you're better off assuming that it's going to be recorded somewhere, and
Agree.
just
Agree
not
so
say,
hard.
yeah, not say stupid things, or not say things that you wouldn't want to own.
I don't know the full context of this conversation, but to Serena's point, having the full recording might actually be a safeguard. Someone else is recording things and taking things out of context. You would
Yes.
at least have the full context, the full conversation in which this bit was being misconstrued.
Exactly. Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah, I love
Um,
that point. Okay, so I'll keep have recordings on. I stopped the recording at some point. It would also have stopped at some point because I think the max is 3 hours. Now Friday night room went on for, I don't know, until when did it go on? I don't know.
I closed the room around like 1:30 a.m. my time.
So it would be
it was 9
4
a.m. my
4
time
a.m.
when you
my
closed it.
time. Okay, so we started at 9 p.m. and then we ended at 4:30 my time. So the recording wouldn't have been going on for, I think there's a limit of 3 hours or something. So, but yeah,
I think it's 6 hours, maybe.
oh no, it's
Oh,
6 hours. Okay,
I
then
thought I heard
oh,
6 hours too. Yeah.
uh,
okay.
although I did seem to, I mean, just throwing it out there is like maybe not bothering to record the round table because a lot of it's like very, we're just speculating and throwing out ideas, and I mean, don't get me wrong, I find this particular club and this room exceptionally mature, and everyone's handling of everybody else's like respect and perspective is, I mean, genuinely, I mean, I've been in other rooms that claim to be highbrow and they still seem to bicker. But here, everybody's willing to let everybody talk, and no matter how silly my suggestions were that night at the round table there, like Dennis and everybody else was all entertaining them. And what was his name? He was a great guy. The Indian doctor. Um, God, he was
Ar-
so smart.
Arvid,
What was?
Arvind?
Huh?
yeah,
Arvid,
Arvid
that was
was
his name.
great.
Arvid was incredible. Like I was blown away with how like incredibly intelligent he was, and he was like taking the Australian guy Alex on a journey of how all this some of this stuff works. But I mean, so far there's not been any big controversy. Anyway, in summary, because it's like a free chat and everything like that, it just maybe mad ideas more rather than discussing from a particular perspective. If it wasn't recorded, um, that would maybe make people feel more comfortable to come up with a silly idea
Yeah, so
or
to
something.
give people context, who wasn't here, so the discussion started with recent Wired articles about how satellites were recently used for cyber attacks to attack specific countries' defense, like of course Ukraine, but then how the spillover effect then affected a lot more people in Europe, that they lost internet and some are still not having internet back on. And then also an article how scientists are using old satellites that are supposed to be destroyed soon to do some experiments and tests with it, and how regular people actually could jam those and use those satellites to spread their ideas and stream to basically a very large population fairly easily. There was, I think, an arrest recently in Brazil where an organization like used all these older satellites to spread their stuff through it. So yeah, there are different ways how satellites can be used in like a malicious way and also against international law, because if you affect other countries that are not part of a active war conflict, you basically affect neutral countries, and that goes against international law. So it started with that, and then the room went on to all kinds of topics, and then Arwind and I don't know what was the other person that came, they brought it back to satellite and GPS, and then they talked a lot about technologies behind that, and new technologies being developed and so on. So it was really interesting. But and I fell asleep at some point, so I missed like 2 hours. So yeah.
If I may, I would like to share, based on what Katarina talked about satellites as an ultra timely subject. And I am sure a lot of you know that Ukraine is now a pivotal case of life dependence on satellites for everything, including their ability to communicate with us. And I just want to humbly say that I just completed my room where I was in touch with Ukrainian people also for my documentaries that I am producing about what's happening there. So the satellite technology delivered by Elon Musk, Starlink, is of pivotal importance because it was dropped into the middle of the war before Russians could get organized for that, and ongoing deployment of additional links keeps Ukrainians connected to us, including this morning interview that heroic President Zelensky delivered to Meet the Nation. On the technology and the science part that you are focused on, and my tilt toward the economies of the science and technology, there is a brilliant new technology developed by Exotus Orbital company happened to be started by a scientist from Russia who now lives in Toronto, that solves the paramount problem of satellites, which is a high cost of usage and fact that we cannot use it freely based on our needs. He developed a software and technology that allows to buy and access sliver of the data that you might be interested in, instead of having to buy firehose of data that now we are forced to do if we want to use satellite data. Orbital Exodus, launched by Ukrainian scientist Denis Slim, is democratizing access to technology of satellites, which I think is very important for many reasons. Thank you for letting me share, Lady Racket.
Wow, that's really interesting, and I really like the Elon Musk project in the way that he's focusing to bring the internet and access to this in countries where the infrastructure for internet and all of this is really, really not there. So I really appreciate and what he did to help the Ukrainians was really important, and also I love the lack of bureaucracy that was that this was done with. You usually they needed an official um,
Yes,
acknowledgement from the government, from the Ukrainian
yes,
government, the permission to land with the equipment, but the government couldn't. And then I think the president sent a tweet, or somebody of the team sent a tweet,
yes,
and
yes,
they did it.
exactly.
I mean, that is amazing.
Yes,
Skip all the bullshit and just doing it is
yeah,
amazing.
exactly. And he responded, "You're absolutely right. It was Minister of Foreign Relations that sent the Twitter saying, 'Hey, Mr. Musk, while you are staying busy trying to get to Mars, how about doing something useful on planet Earth and getting us some of your satellites?'" And looks like Elon Musk has a good people screening his Twitters, because he gets hundreds of thousands of them, but he responded appropriately in his style, in real time. So you're absolutely right. And I think that privatization, what you touched on, Katerina, in your style, is incredibly important subject. Privatization of research and development results, or I would say again, something that is in your bio, being a scientist and entrepreneur, is a necessary formula for acceleration of the human progress. So the science is not only in the hands of governments and big corporations, or even esteemed organizations like NASA, but in the hands of risk-taking entrepreneurs, so we can deploy it faster, and like you said, without the red tape. And if I can plug in something of a philanthropic value that comes from my commitment to the subject, if you can allow me 30 seconds of self-promotion, I launched NFTs called Satellite Rhinos, to touch on something that you also talked, to finance access to satellite data for the purpose of locating poached rhinos in South Africa, so Dr. Johan, who has an incredible organization on the ground, can get to them in a real time, because satellite can locate and deliver the information. And it is impossible to finance projects like this. So I decided to use NFTs to finance use of the technology that doesn't really fit either in the venture capital or Goldman Sachs or university agenda. So I think your room is very interesting to me, because you bring thought of science, research, development, while also fostering a discussion of what to do with it. So thank you for letting me share.
You know,
Yeah.
it is worth. I just want to quickly add to that. It is worth more of a discussion. There is so much wealth in these new Bitcoin millionaires, and I, it would be far more impressive to see them do something with
You
it
got it.
in the area of R&D and non-conventional funding. I remember how frustrating it is to try and write to the NIH and how single digit levels a decade ago were being funded, and so much good research just dies on the vine
So
because it can't find the funding.
I am
Go ahead.
delighted, Serena, that you picked up on it, and I'd be very happy to be, how to describe my role. I am one of them, but I am one of us, and I am sitting at the table, and I see what type of projects are discussed, and I have not seen, not that I know every meeting or every place, but I am usually actively participating in conferences or gatherings, or I use Bitcoin and cryptocurrency to finance my own research development of sorts, my startups. So yeah, there is absolute, I would even say, obligation that we have to assert our initiative to go and say, hey, listen, whale billionaire, what useful have you done so far? In addition to just parking your wealth and talking to us about Bitcoin till it becomes boring. And the reason that I wanted to, tickle this subject in front of you is because next week, starting on April 6th, uh, again, Bitcoin 2022, the pivotal conference of this nature. Take a look at the agenda. Take a look at the speakers. You can even, approach it on your own, but there is nothing that speaks highly about importance of science and getting it funded by Bitcoin. So I'm delighted that you found some potential interest in it, because I think it's untapped source.
I think after you make your first billion, you should get a trophy that says, "Congratulations, you won everything." And then every other billion after that should go right back into the
Well,
public
give them some
because
award, yeah.
it destabilizes the ecosystem. When there's all this resource hoarding, it literally leaves everyone to fight over less, and people need things. These guys don't need more money than they can spend in 10 lifetimes. They just don't. But other people need that money to live.
Well, they are doing that. They are getting organized to feed Africa. They are getting organized to, sprinkle some money on the climate change. But I'm talking about highly visible, highly promoted, authentic challenge given to those billionaires to put them on the record. And I'm just, speaking out of, reacting to what you said, and I haven't talked about it before, but I am tempted to launch a documentary, reaching some of those people and saying, okay, we want to interview you about what your position on funding research with your, incredible new wealth that they are speaking about so openly. Um, because ultimately, if you get them out in the public, put them on the spot, decision making process might be more fun, because there needs to be also thrill and fun and more unusual. But anyway, I will leave you with those thoughts. Unfortunately, I have to take off. I have my science and space projects to attend. But one key message: NFTs allow to democratize access to wealth by creating your own. And if 3 years ago someone would tell me that I would be able to sponsor and finance project that involves SpaceX of going to the moon, I would be doubtful. I am doing it. An economic model behind it is NFT. So leaving you with that, look for your NFT in your research, in your life, because that's one of the resources we people can use now. So, and if anyone wants to learn how to finance using NFTs and investors, early stage Mission Impossible projects like what we've been doing with my team, I am happy to share our experiences. By the way, the NFT is called To the Moon, and it involves incredible research and science company called Lunar Outpost, who is our partner, the first private company that created moon rover that was approved by scientists of NASA to be qualified to be taken to the moon, and my NFTs are part of it. Mine, Copernic Space, a company that I founded. So there is, there's a wealth to be tackled. Thank you for letting me share, and I always appreciate the gracefulness of Katarina and Serena to have me here. And have a wonderful day and stay safe.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Oh, good
Thank you for
evening.
talking.
So where are you? Where are you located? But
Me?
yes, if you're saying evening, where are
Oh,
you?
all right. I'm in Edinburgh. I'm in Scotland.
Oh, you're in Scotland. Oh, beautiful place. Visited your place. Okay, then have a good evening. I am in Los Angeles, so it's a lunchtime pretty much.
Ah, okay. That explains it. Okay. Have a good lunch.
Yes, but my son is near Ukraine border, so he's more in your time zone, and I need to catch up with him still.
Oh,
So
I'm wishing him well. I'm wishing him well.
thank you. He is, I wouldn't call it stuck there, but it's a dramatic situation. He's an American, and our company has scientists in Ukraine. So, anyway, he's there, but his baby boy was born at the first day of war. So, he cannot
Oh,
move easily or come back to the United States. So, thank you for letting me share my personal story that normally I do not do, but
no, please. You're welcome. Well, I mean, I'm
Yeah,
speaking for
thank
everybody.
you.
thank
Thank
you,
you, Lady
thank you.
Rocket. Very
Yes,
inspiring words.
love
Thank
you
you.
guys. Take care. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you. So I wanted. Oh, Lian, go ahead.
Oh, I was just the topic of what research gets funded is something that I have strong feelings about and have had many experiences with, both from the point of view of applying for grants and reviewing grants. And my conclusions for after all that is that the more trivial and incremental the research is, the quicker it is for the reviewers to just quickly say, "Oh yeah, that would be valuable." And if it's actually groundbreaking or revolutionary in some way, it really takes more than the amount of space that is generally provided in these forms to actually lay out why it's important and why it's groundbreaking. And it also requires much more of the reader, like the reviewer, to really think that through. And most governments, for example, if it's government grants, they only fund, they're not going to benefit anything from which the benefits are going to be realized in more than 4 years, because they're going to be gone in 4 years. So they tend to fund short-term research. But the more quickly the world is changing, the more important it is to emphasize groundbreaking over incremental research, and to emphasize theoretical research over highly applied research. Because if you have a static world, then that's great. You just optimize to the conditions that are present. So so if there's some virus that's a problem, then you talk about specifically that virus, and you put out a proposal about how to solve the problem of that virus. But if you have a changing environment, then by the time the grant gets reviewed and the proposal comes back with the funding, the virus is already mutated. It's something else. Your whole method is going to be irrelevant at that point, right? And so in a changing environment like we have now, like we have increasing over this century, it's ever more important to think about long-term solutions and to think about theoretical research versus very applied research. Because theoretical research, it takes longer to realize the applications of it, but there are more applications, there are more potential applications for it. And when we first thought of electricity, we had no potential understanding of how it might be at all useful, right? Because it requires a whole new mindset to think about how that could be useful. And so, yeah, I'm becoming a little bit pessimistic about this, or skeptical. But yeah, what I see getting funding is the stuff that people can review most quickly and just say, oh yeah, that would be useful, and without really having to think it through carefully or deeply. And then it ends up becoming, who can play the game, who can get, yeah, I don't know. um, yeah, it's something you can, I don't know, we could talk forever about just that.
Are you
I
talking
it,
about the oh, sorry.
again, that's why I'm not in academia mostly anymore, because they have all these fake grants that are for apparently high risk, high outcome grants, but they are never really high risk. So all the stuff that I
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%.
all the stuff that I really wanted to do never got funding, and always those stupid projects that I got on grants were the stuff that I really didn't actually want to work on, because it's like I thought, why? What for? Like, this is mostly known. Like, why am I doing this? And everything that I actually wanted to do didn't get funding. But recently, some people published those ideas, so that was exciting. Because out of frustration, also at some point, what I did, I would just write hypothesis papers and just either put them up on ResearchGate or stuff like that, or there are some journals that publish hypothesis papers. So I, out of frustration, I just put them up and hoped and send it to people. If you have a rich lab, please please do this, because I will never get funding for this. So yeah. So anyway,
It's really funny about playing the game and, in pursuit of old world money. The story I've often heard and told is the original funding for the television. The pitch was a remote check cashing system, so a banker in New York could watch somebody in Chicago sign a check, and they got that, and that funded the television.
Oh, that makes me sick.
That's hilarious.
But look how ridiculous that is, and how far, for something as groundbreaking as the television, what had to be said to get it sold. And I do hope we find ways to get these higher risk, more aggressive projects funded through this newfound wealth that Lady Rocket was mentioning, and because we definitely need new instruments for funding groundbreaking research, without doubt.
That was the thing
Charity,
that sounded good about. Oh, sorry. Go, please.
charity is no substitute for properly taxed wealth. Again,
yeah, and
you can't spend $1 billion in a
Yeah.
lifetime as an individual, but to go to Musk, the Amazon just unionized in New York, and these are, and I understand he's not part of, or sorry, that's Bezos, wrong billionaire. Sorry, wrong billionaire. I mean, there's only so many of them in the world. How could I confuse them?
yeah, it's not like back in time we had a certain amount of problems, right? Where it was maybe kind of enough to have a few rich people doing really innovative research. The model that, like in back in time in UK and in Europe, the model that a few aristocrats that had money anyways, didn't rely on any payments, could do really groundbreaking research. I mean, this was the case for a long time. When I actually started my master's in Germany, the payment was so bad, and I already I was a single mom back then, so I said, yeah, I can't survive on that, so I have to do this part-time because I have to do another job. And the answer was, yeah, you're not supposed to be in science and actually have the need to live of it. That was what my professor said. So this mindset in like older professors back then was still there. Like, this was beginnings of 2000. So yeah, so but we don't have that luxury anymore. We have way too many issues to solve. Like, we need way too many innovations to keep relying on that you will only get real innovation done if you're rich anyways, or you have rich parents or something, and most of them go into, I don't know if they would actually, nowadays they mostly travel around and do some Instagram profiles anyway, so
That's and I feel like that goes to the point of the properly taxed wealth, but it is, it's older than than moneyed currency. It's if you look back at ancient times, who were the scientists? Their patrons were the people who had the most resources, because then they had some resources to spare.
Yeah.
yeah. But it also goes into, we have to actually pay the researchers appropriately. When I read, so for example, me as a postdoc, when I arrived here, my pay was 34,000 K a year with 3 kids and a husband, and my visa was supposed to be that I can afford here in New York to like, we could all survive on that, because you have to, when you ask for then work permit for your spouse, and usually it's the men that come with the visas, but you have to basically write a letter and say, yeah, I don't need my husband to work, my money is enough, but for fun and for him to have a continuation of his career, we would like to have a work permit for him, so he can, like, for fun continue doing something and not be bored while we are in the US. So that's ridiculous, right? I mean, and then when I looked into what from our senior, our guest speaker from Google, Pedro Mrushan, he was making at UCLA as his first postdoc position 27.5K a year, and being in engineering. That's like so ridiculous. Like, because usually when you look at NIH, they give basically a guideline how much you supposed to pay researchers, and in engineering and physics it's always like the starting should be at 60,000. For biology, it's like, and like health related sciences, it's supposed to be 47,000, but for engineers and physicists and so on should be starting point 60,000, when most of the time they get like 90,000 or so. So this is so ridiculous. Like, we don't just have to make sure that the funding is there for the research, but also for the people that do the research, because then you keep losing all these minds to go off to these companies that can pay them a salary that makes them survive, and then this goes away from the public research, right? This goes into private companies that read, and you educated all these people for a lot of money, and you're not they don't stay in science. Like, how many Americans are in science that don't rely on a visa? Like, as soon as people get their green card, they go to companies because it's just ridiculous the money you make, and then that also leads into have less progress in real innovation, because companies keep the insights to themselves. They are not open and share it on conferences what they're actually doing and make collaborations to continue with the idea itself. It's most of the time a secret of the company, because patents don't really protect you from anything. So, and not making your progress available to the community slows down innovation also. So that's another problem.
This is a great way to control the big brains, to keep them from taking over.
Yeah, by letting stupid people have all this ridiculous money and greed going ridiculously unchecked. When I saw a TV, I saw a thing about the ridiculously rich. You're talking before dinner's about You don't need more than $1 billion, right? It's like these people were selling like completely made out of diamond bras that couldn't be worn, but it's just so a multi-billionaire could buy it for his mistress or his wife. Like that was like, if there's anything about inventing a ridiculous niche for the ridiculous wealthy to burn money that could have helped everybody else, it just so unnecessary.
And then they go and they buy those institutions. You have Bloomberg, who has bought out a whole bunch of institutions, and there are, and I don't want to get into the details, but basically he also spent about $500 million on, well, which office did he run for recently? I don't
Not a
remember,
very
but the
big one.
point is that
He was a presidential candidate, yeah.
but the point is that was a stunt campaign. I don't necessarily think he actually had any intention of seriously pursuing that. And like, think about that. $500 million, like what could that have paid for otherwise rather than a stunt campaign?
Didn't he also claim he wasn't going to fire everybody if he didn't like get into the next stage, like the whole campaign thing? Or it was something like he was running something because he was doing the presidency stuff, and he was trying to like all say like I won't just leave everybody out in the lurch and fire people if they all kind of come with me. He didn't get through and then fired everybody.
Yeah, well, before we before continuing with the more general discussions, with I'm happy to, like, I love, but I wanted to just update everyone. We have, like, and I saw some people just joining this Discord server. We just set it up, so there's not too much content right now other than updates what's happening next week. There's a channel events, so there are the links to the rooms that are coming up next week. We have a channel there with if you want to make any suggestions, or and the general chat room for now. So yeah, if you want to be part of it, please click on it and be part of the discussion. If you want to chat or leave questions there that I should send the guest speakers afterwards, if you have any follow-up questions, anything like that, we can. I think it's an easier way to do that maybe on Discord in the future once we grow. So yeah, check it out if you want. And yeah, we have also a website, and I wanted to quickly let you know what we have going on next week. So we have on Monday, which is tomorrow, Dr. Salamat. He's an exogeologist, and he will talk about his work. This recent paper was how he and his team discovered a new form of ice, but he will also talk more about, in general, his research project about exogeology. So it means geology on other planets, like what type of ice, what type of metals, like what stuff could be on other planets. So I think it's really cool research. Then we have Dr. Lenz presenting a human evolutionary distinctiveness based on his genetic research. I think that's pretty cool. The more we it's more, the more we know, the better type of research. And then we'll have Dr. Liang. She's actually at the company, a scientist where they create carbon negative production of acetone, isopropanol. So they are basically a company that looks into creating, more energy efficient and cutting down carbon emissions type of new company and research. And then we'll have Dr. Morin talking about elevated levels of hoarding and ADHD and his more mental health related research. And we have Dr. Emre on Friday that published a really cool paper about using a nasal spray to stop memory decay in Alzheimer's. So I'm really excited about that. It was kind of in the news recently. And then on Saturday at 1 p.m. EST, we have Dr. Marco Pezzini, the paper that was posted yesterday about long distance electrodynamic intermolecular forces. So it's more a basic physics research room on Saturday. And that's our next week. I'm excited about it. And yeah, thanks everyone for supporting this and being here. So yeah, I really appreciate this community that is growing out of this.
Katharina, thank you very much for actually setting all these things up, because I've come in here being like such a nobody layman, and I've stumbled across truly fantastic people, and I don't just mean the ones you're inviting as guests. You're all quite frighteningly intelligent, and it's been an absolute pleasure here. And I was thinking about how busy you are in what you do, and you still have so much, or you're so willing to spend so much time bringing these incredible people in as guest speakers. Thank you so much for that. That's incredible.
Yeah, that's so nice of you. Yeah, it's been always in my mind to one day, the PhD program I was in, it was founded by a really fascinating female researcher in immunology, and she had this idea to have a completely border-free school, and it worked out for a bunch of years and was very successful. Like most people that came out of her PhD program are really major, impactful scientists nowadays. Like my, our alumni are really, I'm the screw up basically, like leaders of the neuroscience department of Columbia University and so on and so forth. Like, and the idea of the program was to have not these borders in science. Like, we could choose any scientific project. We were trained on all different science areas the first year by leading a scientist and travel around the world. And then we could choose any lab in any scientific field we wanted to do our PhD project. And that was a great inspiration. She died COVID. It's really early on COVID. She had she had cancer, but she was getting better. But then COVID hit, and she died.
Oh, that's a
And
tragedy.
her work inspired me to keep this somehow. Her idea going and to turn this into something. So with the little resources I have, this is basically, it's not my idea. I just carry that inspiration on, and a bunch of other of alumni of her are doing this in different ways. This is with the resources I have, what I can do is create this community and hopefully turning it into something bigger, because I learned that creating a network like she created from all kinds of science fields and interesting people that are truly invested in just a science community and doing great research is so valuable. So yeah, if we can bring this to more people, the better. So yeah, that's the
Well,
idea.
I can tell you this,
Well,
Katharina, is being involved in these with all of you and talking and hearing and talking to some of these people. It's made me want to be better. Like, I've actually spent more time now picking up my programming and things like that, and putting my more efforts into like learning more rather than. sitting watching stupid Netflix TV shows than I've than I've done for a very long time. So I'm finding it incredibly inspirational. So it's working on me.
Yeah, I mean, I want to thank you too, Katerina, for being such a force of nature in putting all of these talks together. It's going so well. Let's all flash our mics for Katerina.
Thank you.
Uh,
It's all thanks to you that you are also there to listen and participate. If it would just be me and the speaker, it would be nothing. So it takes a village to do this, and you guys are really special. That you support this, and it creates friendships, and it's all about our community and growing and having each other in the same, having people around that are passionate about these things is wonderful.
I also really like it that the speakers that you have in, they're not like lightweight speakers, right? They're not like it's like these are really amazingly smart people, and not the kind of ones that are like like Neil deGrasse Tyson, right? That he'll come in, but he's almost like trained at this point to talk to people that go, "What's a star?" Like that sort of level where um they're almost having to talk down to such a point. And not that that's not important for people and stuff, but I love that these talkers make me work for it, make me want to understand, rather than coming down to my level, make me kind of try and rise a bit farther to theirs. I actually really like that, like a really high class of intelligent people and crazily complex stuff. It gives me a much better idea of what's actually going on in the scientific community rather than just we're trying to build a robot. Instead it's the whole thing that like yesterday with the doctor was using chemicals and fluids and stuff to work with plastics. Oh, incredible.
Yeah, thank you. It's also luck, of course, but you can basically, it's kind of a because I don't know every guest speaker that we get. Like, I don't know them personally. Some I know, others I don't. And, but guest speakers that agree to this setting, are usually probably more open to this whole idea and the setting. That's already pre-selection. Once now I got, as I mentioned before, like now I get like email answers that people look at our website and then see the other great guest speakers that came, and some people say, oh, this seems to be like a great opportunity. So maybe that pre-filter in the future won't work as well, because once it gets like kind of you want to be on the list where this and this guest speaker was kind of effect, you maybe will have. So that's interesting. I haven't thought about this. So maybe in the future this will kind of be different, that not everyone will be as nice. They will just do it because they want to be part of that list and be mentioned in the same sentence like another guest speaker we had before. So that's something we should look out for in the future. But I think we can handle it as a group, as long as their research is solid and their answers are fact-based and things like that, which we ensure based on the checks we do before we invite them. I think we can handle also a little bit of of not completely friendly people that are still professional. So I think it will still be fine.
Yeah, it's probably gathering momentum, right? Like with this kind of speakers, like you said there, like the more speakers that are willing to come, the better the names. The other people who maybe would have like turned their nose up, like I'm not going to speak on what's this clubhouse thing? I'm supposed to speak here. Instead, they go, oh, this is a thing. Okay, I want in on this. I like that.
Yeah. So I like having people that are not famous at all yet. I like supporting, young scientists that are just starting postdocs or just finished their PhD or something, published something really cool the first time. I like that too, to give them like a stage and they can also learn by being here to communicate. I think we had the week before somebody that was really not used to public speaking. Was of course a little bit different the dynamic in that room, but I think it was still pretty good. And I think, I like the idea of uh, having kind of a setting where they can safely in our club train that, right? That public speaking setting before they go really to news outlets or some podcasts or YouTube channels where they will be then later on, you know.
I think that's a great idea. Having the famous people on, like, I mean, obviously famous people are, well, famous, but like the kind of people you've had on have been like incredibly interesting and no less amazing than any other stupid famous people we've seen on telly. Just that they're, whatever it is they're working on is probably not as important to them to be famous about, or that just that what they're actually working on is very difficult to market to the common masses a bit because it's so like specialized or so complex, you know. But I'm well on favor. I actually thought that this actually allows us to give some of these incredibly smart people the attention that they truly deserve. I think. I mean, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, exactly. I think, yeah, scientists deserve and engineers and so on deserve some. We could shift, hopefully. That's a big goal. But to shift this, that actual people that actually do all these innovations we use and live
Right?
to that they get also some attention out
How much
there.
how much credibility is Musk getting for like the thousands of people that are actually doing all like the breakthroughs and stuff? I'm not saying he's doing nothing. I'm just saying it's like I know that it's made to look like Elon just puts on some goggles and disappears into a room and suddenly there's a new rocket ship. And so it's like, wow, Elon, you genius. Anybody can be genius if you can hire the amount of intelligent people he can. So I'm saying,
Yeah, and also and also basic science, like the basic science discoveries that are made today will maybe get used in the next 20, 30 years. It used to be like in the next 50 years or 100 years, like theories of what Albert Einstein did are con- shown and experienced like 100 years later, and the actual usage of his gained knowledge was used like 50 years later. But I guess that's accelerating a little bit. But most of the time, I mean, Albert Einstein is a very unique example, but most of the people we forget, right? Or the large community, maybe not scientists, because we built up on their work and we mention them and hopefully in our papers and stuff. But for the large population, they get forgotten. And yeah, and I agree, they deserve more attention.
that reminds me, Katerina, you gave me a couple of papers looking at before, right? Remember we were having the discussion about, you know, the gene therapy and my eyes and stuff, right? But one of the things I was wanting to know is there what is the best way for someone like myself who isn't involved in the university and stuff to like want to read more of these papers and be a bit more informed and stuff because it seems that like you and Denise and others have been like saying I read this paper where this and this and this um and I've been like really wishing I could actually read them from essentially the horse's mouth, you know, read the papers directly because I've been under the I've been just simply buying some books like on Audible about general science or you know like the Great Courses Plus and things like that, right? But I've kind of always kind of felt I'd love to read these papers like directly so that I don't have to see it through a filter of a news headline and stuff like that. Like, what's the best way for me to go about that, and how could I, like, would it be beneficial for someone like me to actually read science papers rather than things like headlines and New Scientist and stuff?
Well, it's difficult to answer that, right? Because so what you can do if you read a New Scientist or whatever article, in the end, somewhere should be the link to the actual article. Usually they do. Either it's a link in the text, or at the end there is the reference and the DuoEye link to the actual paper. And then, of course, you have these major journals, which is relatively boiled down to just what a few reviewers think is high impact and stuff. So they are way more scientific journals, and they're like repositories to look into. It's really hard to keep up, but if you don't have the subscriptions, which are quite expensive, your libraries, I don't know, some local libraries have subscriptions to science journals like Science and Nature, and then there are open source ones like Frontiers and Nature Communications. So I think you can sign up to get like weekly email updates on what came out during that week in those journals, and then you can boil down what you want to read about. You can do this also on PubMed. Also on PubMed should be everything that was peer reviewed. You can make an account, and then you can put in search filters to either authors that you want to follow, like labs authors that you want to follow. You can follow topics or specific proteins or receptors and whatnot, or some specific disease, and then you can keep updated this way. So the biggest one, I guess, is PubMed, but it won't give you access to the full paper if it's behind the paywall. And to get behind the paywall, you can either Google, and sometimes you get them through other platforms, or you can check for your library, or you can actually write the corresponding author an email and ask them, can you please send me the PDF of this paper? And if they are regular nice human beings, they will. If they are not, they won't. But most of the time, people will answer and send you back the PDF if they are the author.
Thank you very much. I might look into that. I did have an app. I'm trying to remember what it was. I've got it on my phone here, and that was supposed to be like, it's filled with loads of different papers and stuff like that. Problem is, it was like I could never really get it to work right. It wasn't incredibly accessible for me. So when it was trying to like push me to read papers and stuff, it kept I wasn't able to delve into it as much as I like, because of course I didn't really want to try and pour money into something that I could barely use, because that was just incredibly frustrating.
So I have to leave. I have a family and it's Sunday, so but if you want to keep the room open, please go ahead, keep the room open, keep it going. Other than that, we will hear each other tomorrow again with our outer planet geology room.
Okay, you take care. You have a very good day, Katarina.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Katarina.
I should also go
Bye.
as well. So thanks, everyone.
Take care, Serena.
I'm also going to leave, and Dr. Miriam, I'm not sure if you're around, but it seems like people are ready to go. So
Not a
we're
problem.
going to,
Hey, before you go, Dennis, right?
yeah.
I was gonna say to you, I was totally saying your name wrong. I'm sorry. I thought your name was Dennis, and it was only when you said Denise, that was when you said your name means the sea. I was like, oh no, I'd been getting it wrong this whole time. So sorry
Oh,
about that.
don't worry about it. Do not worry about
And
that at all.
the other thing as well is because I actually is Denise, is it like a unisex name then in Turkey or something like that?
Yes,
Because I
that
knew
is
a woman
correct.
called
It is a unisex name.
because I knew a woman called Denise. She was living in Turkey, and so when you mentioned like your name meant the sea, that's why I immediately knew the exact way it should be and why I was getting it wrong. So there you go. I learn something new every day.
Yeah, stick
Right.
around. You will keep learning stuff, as you already mentioned before, that you've learned so much. That makes me happy to hear that people learn when they're around us, because I definitely aim for that. Sometimes are not so successful, but it's nice to hear that that's been rubbing off on you.
Well, yeah, no, 100%. In fact, I even wonder how you actually managed um, I don't know how you managed to like learn so much. Genuinely, I feel very fortunate that I've got a lot of time to dive into things, and still I'm not like a hundredth of I don't have a hundredth of knowledge base that you seem to. I just don't understand how you can like remember it all. You know.
Remembering it all can be challenging. Referencing things, definitely refreshing your knowledge, and then obviously um, interacting with others. It's a lot of reinforcing the neural pathways by repetition, and then ideally you add more information, and then just the more you hang out with the nerds, the more nerdy you get. It's
See,
nerdmosis,
see,
nerd by osmosis.
See, the simple caliber of your response there was like, oh, just keep. It wasn't just oh, keep reading. It was like, no, just keep reinforcing the neural pathways, and then by osmosis. Oh,
Yeah.
just say thank you.
I appreciate it. I hope I was able to convey that I appreciate it.
Very much so. Thank you very much, though. I'll let you go and let you in the room then, and I'll look forward to speaking to everyone else later on.
Okay, great. Thank you so much again, and bye
Right.
everyone. Enjoy your
Bye,
rest
everybody.
again. Bye.